Howdy, y'all. It is another I Am That episode, chapter 94. You are beyond space and time. You are beyond space and time. This chapter, Maharaj, Nisargadatta Maharaj, once again, it's a very good chapter. I just say it off just from the beginning to end. This is a pretty solid chapter. Very heavy stuff. If definitely would not be good to just skip towards like this chapter. If you've never read this book before, I do highly recommend reading this book. Um, yeah, because this one's really heavy. It's just from. We have questions like the questioner at one point. Um, if happiness is not conscious and consciousness is not happy, what is the link between the two? Like, this is a sort of question that the questioner asked at one point. It's a very deep question. Um, the way Maharaj responds to this, consciousness being a product of conditions and circumstances depends on them and changes along with them. What is independent, uncreated, timeless, and changeless, and yet ever new and fresh, is beyond the mind. When the mind thinks of it, the mind dissolves and only happiness remains. So, and and right before this, he talks about how a state of absence, not existent, in response to the questioner right before this, if being happy is the same as being free from fear and worry, can it not be said that absence of trouble is the cause of happiness? Like, this is what the question he had asked before. Maharaj had said to this, a state of absence, of non existence, cannot be a cause. The pre existence of a cause is implied in the notion. Your natural state in which nothing exists cannot be a cause of becoming. The causes are hidden in the great and mysterious power of memory. But your true home is in nothingness, in emptiness of all content. And of course, the questioner, emptiness and nothingness, how dreadful. Judging this, having this, we have these notions of what that means, and it's not most of us, especially in the West, that idea of like this the nothingness and emptiness. It sounds so negative. It doesn't sound joyful. It doesn't sound like love. But the way Maharaj responds to it, he does the whole, sleep argument. You face it most cheerfully when you go to sleep. Find out for yourself the state of wakeful sleep, and you will find it quite in harmony with your real nature. Words can only give you the idea, and the idea is not the experience. All I can say is that true happiness has no cause, and what has no cause is immovable, which does not mean it is perceivable as pleasure. What is perceivable is pain and pleasure. The state of freedom from sorrow can be described only negatively. To know it directly, you must go beyond the mind addicted to causality and the tyranny of time. And that's then when the questioner responds to if happiness is not conscious and conscious is not happy, what is the link between the two? And so we have this. So I think there's just, and he talks about this in other chapters before, and but I do think this is just a very fascinating idea. This idea, like, of just of what really what it really even means to be happy. What we just defining as happiness. It's like we almost have cut because, for example, in science, there really is no such thing as cold, right? There really isn't a cold. It's only the absence of heat. And so, in a way, you can really argue that Maharaj here is almost arguing that sorrow and pain and these things exist, but really what happiness is just the absence of these sorrows and pains. He even goes on. He even describes it. I think it's either earlier or later in the chapter. He even says, "Ah, yes, the world is a is an ocean of pain and fear, of anxiety and despair. Pleasures are like the fishes, few and swift and rarely come, quickly gone. A man of low intelligence believes against all evidence that he is an exception and that the world owes him happiness. But the world cannot give what it does not have. Unreal to the core, it is of no use for real happiness. It cannot be otherwise. We seek the real because we are unhappy with the unreal. Happiness is our real nature, and we should never rest until we find it. But we rarely know where to seek it. Once we have understood what the world is, but have a mistaken view of reality. What is not what the world appears to be. You are free of its obsessions. Only what is compatible with your real being can make you happy, and the world as you perceive it is its outright denial. And so, in conclusion, together, yes, together with what we were talking about earlier, especially with what we are, emptiness and nothingness, you can really start to see what he's trying to say when we talk about the happiness, the real being happy. Is that this happiness and the nothingness are the one. It's like we're really, what we are seeking is the cold. We are seeking the lack of heat. The sorrow is the heat. I think that's like one way I feel like I'm especially trying to break it down in real time with you guys. I'm really interpreting all of this. Um, so, because for example, even earlier, if happiness is independent, why are we not always happy? As long as we, Maharaj, as long as we believe that we need things to make us happy, we shall also believe that in their absence we must be miserable. Mind always shapes itself according to its beliefs. Hence the importance of convincing oneself that one need not be probed into happiness. That, on the contrary, pleasure is a distraction and a nuisance, for it merely increases the false conviction that one needs to have and do things to be happy, when in reality it is just the opposite. But why talk of happiness at all? Do you think of happiness except when you are unhappy? A man who says, I am now happy, is between two sorrows, past and future. This happiness is mere excitement caused by relief from pain. Real happiness is utter self conscious. It is best expressed negatively as there is nothing wrong with me. I have nothing to worry about. After all, the ultimate purpose of all sadhana is to reach a point when this conviction, instead of being only verbal, is based on the actual and ever present experience. And the questioner, which experience? The experience of being empty, uncluttered by memories and expectations. It is like the happiness of open spaces, of being young, of having all the time and energy for doing things, for discovery, for adventure. The questioner then asks, what remains to discover? Maharaj, the universe without and the immensity within as they are in reality, in the great mind and heart of God, the meaning and purpose of existence, the secret of suffering, life's redemption from ignorance. And so then from there, and so that's what I'm saying. Like I do like this. It's a very, very, very I think a very interesting alternative way of looking at happiness. We always see happiness as this thing, as an active force, and then you know, sorrow, sadness, negativity is a positive force, negative force, bam. But this to me, yeah, it is almost like more like a hot cold thing, and what we're actually seeking is really what would be the equivalent of the cold or the absence of state. And that's why we talk about the real being so empty and of nothingness, especially in the Buddhist and Hindu tradition, especially Buddhist and Hindu traditions. That's why there's that talk of this, and it's not viewed in that same like negative way, because in the West, emptiness and nothingness, that would, we associate that as sad. I feel nothing inside. I feel empty inside. That's something we would associate as a sad feeling. But in this the case, it's no. It's actually like you're becoming above even the ocean waves and pain and pleasure. This is why the whole cycle of pain and pleasure is ultimately viewed as a state of misery, because this is an ongoing thing. And like the pleasures you feel are just breaks in between the suffering. So I'm trying to think of what else do I want to do. So there was a little back and forth between, at the very end, about kind of a little bit about like predetermination versus free will a little bit. So a little, just a couple, like a back and forth at the very end that I did want to talk about. I think it's interesting. So the questioner asked, "Am I not under the sway of destiny, of my karma? What can I do against it? What am I, and what do what I am and what I do is predetermined. Even my so-called free choice is predetermined. Only I am not aware of it and imagine myself to be free." Maharaj, again, it all depends on how you look at it. Ignorance is like a fever. It makes you see things which are not there. Karma is the divinely prescribed treatment. Welcome it and follow the instructions faithfully, and you will get well. A patient will leave the hospital after he recovers. To insist on immediate freedom of choice and action will merely postpone recovery. Accept your destiny and fulfill it. This is the shortest way to freedom from destiny, though not from love and its compulsions. To act from desire and fear is bondage. To act from love is freedom. Especially as, I want to highlight the last part. To act from love is freedom. That is freedom. Love is freedom. And, so I think on that note, just follow your destiny, follow the love, follow the light, because that is the way. So I want to just say, I want to just leave on that note. You have any questions, concerns, comments, comment below. And I hope you all have a good one. Hare Krishna. Namaste. Peace upon you all. Thank you.